no, I'd rather just go live. Fuck it. And we are live. Hello, everyone. We got Vera Faith in the house.
Hey.
Hello.
Hey,
so my computer is really slow about every button that I push. It's a great lag before I have the thing happen again. Anyway, it's terrible. And then Dave also is having computer issues tonight. And then interestingly, DeKendre let us know that at the last minute he has a meeting, and it has to do with his house sale in Hawaii. So hopefully he'll be able to sell his house and go to Scotland soon enough, right? So that's a really good thing. So he will not be joining us this evening, but that's okay because Dave and I can handle this. Okay, we've been wanting to do this for a really long time, ever since we did the Tolkien and Shamanism video. We have wanted to do the Tolkien and channeling video. And the reason being is that they're very similar. Muriel made it. Hi, how's it going? Yay. Hi. Get to see somebody from one of our people from Argentina is on tonight. So that's fabulous.
Oh, okay. She's from Argentina. All right.
Yeah,
I knew
well,
one of our people
or
was.
she's at least, I think that she's from the USA, but she has family in Argentina. And and oh, Nimue is on. Ah, yay. We're so happy. And so hopefully Draco's in the background too. That's fabulous. Aw, yeah, we're happy to see you too. And by the way, belated happy solar return, because she is also a Capricorn like myself. So we will go to the attachment. So I wanted to introduce this kind of in a way because poor Dave. So he writes this amazing Tolkien and Shamanism video. It's one of our more popular videos. It's not as popular as the Elvish video that we had done, like the spiritual qualities of language and everything. But we are excited to bring it to you again because it is the same evidence that we're going to be using tonight. And so what it is that we're going to talk about a little bit about the difference between channeling and shamanism, because they're really similar, and some people think that they're the same thing, and some people wouldn't even think of the word shaman when they think of channeling, and vice versa. So this video is basically to allow us to talk about it again, because I think that it's a good idea to talk about all of this stuff multiple times, because I mean, I don't think that we can say quite enough about the spirituality aspect of Tolkien's work. I just don't think it could be overstated. I really don't. So we are actually wanting to seek audience with those who would search for, did Tolkien channel this material? And they would use that language. And they might not find our Tolkien and Shamanism video. So that's why we are making a special video with this particular language and this particular, if you will, meta tags, algorithm, whatever you want to call it. And we're trying to find people that feel the same way as we do. And there's, of course, many different kinds of vocabulary to find them, but these are probably the most common types of ways to find it. Okay, so the way that I see, and so anybody else in the room that has any knowledge, and you can please share your viewpoints, but in my learning and understanding, there is a difference between shamanism, what we call, and what I will say is not the indigenous type of shamanism that is regional in Eastern Asia. And then, no, what I mean is the, I guess if you will, Michael Harner created a core shamanism, meaning that all indigenous cultures have shamanistic type of qualities in play. And so we were like it's kind of a definition that we're looking at that we call shamanism at the greater level. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
Actually, Michael Harner has his own spin.
Yes, he does. Yes, he
it's
does.
basically the word shamanism became globalized from its culture of origin, and now is used by anthropologists to refer to the same sort of mental pattern and behavioral constellation by anthropologists. So that's what I'm talking about when I wrote the paper.
Okay, and so I wanted to talk about the difference between that definition of shamanism, along with what I know about people who practice forms of shamanism versus what channeling means. So what I will say is that I believe that a shaman type person, okay, like a person that identifies as shaman, and especially with more of an indigenous viewpoint, usually the people that are designated shamans in their tribe, okay, the shaman lives in the other world almost permanently, and maybe even absolutely permanently. They're never in the real world, meaning this physical, construct, which is actually really the fake world, okay? And really they're in the real world, right? But you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's actually not completely accurate. I mean, it varies by culture, but very few of them are in the state continuously. I know that people may think that that's the case, but
I think that it depends on the tribe, and there are definitely tribes that their person is there constantly, and they were also, known as the crazy ones, or whatever, even though they had an extremely important role in their particular tribal duties. But it wasn't just channeling that they did, and so that's like, so shamans can channel, but a channel, meaning a person that channels, is not necessarily a shaman. So that's the first thing that I wanted to like straighten up. And so
yeah, you may have to explain it, because I come out of a scientific and with a minor in anthropology, so that's my worldview. So I don't even know what channeling is, to be completely honest with you.
I understand. And by the way, we like your scientific viewpoint. Okay. I have more of a spiritual, I guess, if you will, professional viewpoint, where, many people that I talk to, they identify with these titles. So there's usually a consensus about what a channel is versus what a medium is versus what a shaman is versus what an energy healer is, okay, versus what a psychic is versus what a intuitive is. So all of these, they're kind of all describing the working with energies that are not necessarily visible in our world, and yet are underpinnings of what the physical world is as its expression. Okay, so we, like before this computer that I'm looking at existed, this was a thought in someone's mind. Okay, then they had to like create the schematic and then get the materials and make the computers, right? So this is actually a form of magic, right? That if we look at it by that kind of term, a lot of times technology has its own kind of magic, right? So the shaman and even the channel or the medium or the psychic, they tend to, the technology is more like built into the body, okay, and it's trained, well, sometimes not trained, sometimes it's natural. Training helps though, because then you can avoid some very crazy pitfalls. If you don't have training and you have a lot of openness, you can go into some really dangerous places, right? So I just wanted to talk to people about the difference between like how we're talking about channeling and Shamanism before we get to the paper that we're going to upload here and talk about. In fact, we'll go ahead and set it up on the stage now. Okay. So this was Dave's Shamanic Worldview paper that we did for the Tolkien and Shamanism video, because we actually are going to use the same evidence for the Tolkien and channeling. But just understand that the channeling and the mediumship, so there's some people that use mediumship, and sometimes it's interchangeable, and sometimes there is subtle different definitions for channeling and for mediumship. So usually with mediumship, it's like a literal, like you are a translator of the messages of, like, you know, the dead that come to you and have messages. So that would be more of a medium. A channel kind of does it more with like energy, or like there's a little bit more, like, I guess, of an intuition or a psychic like knowing involved. So it's not as much of a translation word for word of what you're getting. That's what I understand is the difference with a medium versus channeling. But as we can, you know, maybe even see here, maybe Tolkien had used all three of these things. Okay. So, Dave, we're going to go ahead and start reading this document. Okay. And by the way, I tried to see if I could get the document to fit on the screen so that you guys could actually see the print. I am unable to. However, if you are a free member of Patreon and there is a post with the Tolkien's Shamanism, there is an attachment there. I can also update this particular Patreon and upload the attachment there. I cannot upload the attachment to YouTube, so that won't work. Alternatively, Dave, would you be open toward, if there was enough interest from the crowd, a HackMD link?
I can try. See, the problem is this is written in basically in open office format. So and so
I see.
all of the end notes, I can probably do it, but it's not a trivial procedure. You have to go it. Yeah, I mean, you can export it as HTML, and then you can convert that into Markdown, but sometimes it doesn't convert right.
And then it doesn't convert perfectly.
It would take a few days of.
Here's another suggestion.
Yeah.
Just send me a message and I'll get you the PDF. How's that? Okay, so that would be also a different way.
I can also host it on my a open PDF host right now. Then we
could even do it. Actually, you know what? I didn't even think about it. We could actually upload it. So I'm going to write a note to myself so that I don't forget. We can actually host it to our WordPress backend too. So WordPress.
If you want to, I mean, you know.
Okay, file.
I don't even know all the various things that we have. That's your department. So.
I know, and I'm trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to do that, but. But for patrons who are free or paid level, they already have access to it, because they have a way to search the shamanism post and discover, you know, they can discover that post and then they'll see an attachment and they can download it really quickly. So they don't have to wait for us. But I was just thinking what we could do is put the WordPress link and put that in the end end notes or in the video description.
What I could do, there's something called pdfhost.io, and you can host PDFs there permanently, basically. Well, how much permanently?
I'm curious. Is that a free?
Yeah. They don't care because they get advertising. You know.
Oh, I see.
So
okay, okay, that's an
if you want me If you want me to, that's where I normally, that's where I used to host all my PDFs back when I was,
Okay,
using
that would be
Open
great. And
Office.
if we get a PDF host.io, and they don't have to make an account, they can just download it like if they see it,
That's
right?
right. Yeah, yeah.
Perfect. Okay,
That's
so
why I
what we
chose
can
it.
do is then just add a note in the video description, maybe in the comments afterward as well, to get a hold of this document. Unfortunately,
I'll,
we can't change the size for your viewing pleasure on this particular format. For some reason, I tried and it doesn't work. So we'll just be reading it tonight. Okay, so Tolkien's shamanistic worldview, vision, augury, and the stewardship of nature in JRR Tolkien's life and Legendarium. In this paper, I, meaning Dave, intends to demonstrate that J.R.R. Tolkien likely employed a form of shamanic consciousness to create much of the narrative material in the Legendarium. Now, to translate that toward channeling, that would be the ability to, so for instance, like if you're journeying and you're in that kind of other world space, okay, either by intention or accidentally, okay, if you have a natural talent, you might see non-corporeal beings, okay, that are not physical in this world, but that they may be communicating with you. So we know that part of the process with Tolkien, with his writing, was that he learned or came up with the language first, okay? He came up with the words and the languages first, and then the stories happened. Well, now think about if he were to encounter these beings and he had this amazing linguistic ability, and maybe these beings were realizing that it's like, oh, we could teach them our language and everything. So it became kind of an organic process for them to not only share language, but also to share their story, okay,
I
in that realm.
just to let you know, I posted the link to. I just uploaded and posted the link in our
Oh, let me highlight it, and
group
then I'll
chat.
make sure that okay, I'm going to switch back. So I only have one screen here, guys. So I'm going to highlight that. Did you put it in private chat?
I put it in Facebook Messenger chat, our group chat.
Okay. Oh, let me go grab it.
That way we have it, because these chats disappear as soon as the broadcast ends. So
They do, but that's why I
yeah,
usually try to like I'll paste into the
right,
the live chat, but then I'll highlight it so that at least we have
right,
a video recording of it.
right.
But also, I think that if you were to post it, it doesn't highlight the link so that it goes to that particular.
Yeah, I think only that's a StreamYard thing. I think only the host of the
No,
stream
actually, I
can.
think it's a YouTube thing.
Oh, okay.
I think that they do that to prevent spammers from like visit my page and then so that only we are allowed to link, meaning the host. And since I'm the host, according to this, okay. So yeah, it attaches a Facebook ID. So I'm gonna delete all of that. Okay. Okay, I'm getting it right now. So I'm posting it into the this is for everybody who wants it right now. Dave did this while I was yakking. Okay. Okay, it should highlight and link and go to that link if you guys want to open up a copy of that right now. I'm also going to highlight it for the screen. There it goes. This is how buggy my computer is right now. It's literally not allowing me to do a lot of things, and it's got a lot of lag tonight. So there might be some other reasons for that. Aw. Mariel says thanks. Cool. Okay. So I'll keep the link highlighted for now, just so that you guys will be able to see it. Okay, there we go. Don't touch it, Lisa. Okay. So I'm going to switch back to the document and continue reading, because I figure that when we go through the shamanism thing, now we also have a whole lot of other documents that I pulled up on the HackMD account. And all of those HackMD articles that Dave wrote are also in the video description below this video. So letting you know that ahead of time as well. Okay. So basically what my vision was, okay, about how this would work, and this was what was happening while we were doing the Tolkien and Shamanism video, is that I had this sensation that, because I know that fiction authors usually have a story first and then come up with or invent from scratch a language, so that they could therefore have a language within their story. So the story is first and then the language comes later. This is definitely the opposite process. And it makes me think that that's how, and if you were to encounter beings that you didn't understand their language, but then you have a sensibility in order to understand language because you happen to be linguistically wired like Tolkien was, could you see that the beings would say, hey, like we can work with this and tell him our stories, and we'll teach him our language, right? And then teach the stories, right? Isn't that a logical? I don't know. It seems logical to me. I'm not sure if anybody else feels that it's logical, but that's how I see it anyway. So that's why I feel that Tolkien not only channeled the languages, but he also channeled the stories, and he did it. And there was probably some story mixed with the languages, but I'll bet primarily the languages were, so that they can talk to each other. So they were learning the language, and then the stories came forth, because the stories are very deep. We all know this about Tolkien. I mean, he wrote large accounts of things that it's really difficult to feel that that was just his imagination. Okay. It's deeply historical and deeply threaded into everywhere. And so I really believe that a lot of people feel like, oh, Tolkien, it feels like he wrote real history instead of, imagining it. So isn't that interesting that he did it that way? And I'm like, yeah, because the beings told him. You know what I mean? So that's where I think that this is going. So anyway, I'm not going to read this entire document to the letter again, because we already did that with the Tolkien and Shamanism video, but I wanted a visual to go through and just remind me of things to talk with you guys about. So we already discussed what shamanism is. If you want to, you can, refer to the video there. But it's basically, I'll just quote here: shamanism is a spiritual practice found in various cultures worldwide, and spiritual being the key word there. And I believe that channeling and mediumship, so each of those things, is also a spiritual practice. Okay. It is a spiritual practice that shamans often use. So shamans are also forecasters and because they forecast for their tribe. They are healers, they're medicine men. So there's a lot of jobs that shamans do. Okay. And I'm only talking about the channeling aspect of the communication area, not necessarily the healing arts and some of the other things. Although I would say that, there's probably a lot of that going on too. But I think that Tolkien's job, I don't know if he I have not encountered anything about Tolkien having like hands-on healing or, you know, any kinds of talents like that. I haven't encountered that, but I do believe though that he had qualities of what we would call a bard in the definitions of bard and druidism and ovits and those types of things. I think that he would be a bard in their culture, which is a storyteller.
I just want to mention since since we're on this topic, in my other article, my HackMD article, The Shamanic Resonance of Language in Tolkien's Legendarium, there's some additional material about the basically what's called neurotheological, the neurological pattern as it intersects with spirituality. In that article, if you're interested in reading a bit more, because it's kind of that it overlaps to some extent with this Tolkien and Shamanism one, although the Shamanic Resonance of Language was written later. So
okay, and actually, well, we did actually. I believe that the Shamanic language one, did we feature that in our language video, or was that a different document?
I think that was the one that you said got a lot of views, the Shamanic Resonance of Language.
Yes.
That one.
Yes. Okay. So if you guys are interested in that, there's a video link to that one, and potentially also the link to the HackMD article in that particular video. So I just want to make sure we're covered here so that you guys have all the resources that you need. And yeah, the language. Okay. So, yeah, that was how I was kind of seeing this with how when we were talking about this with the Tolkien and Shamanism video, I was totally seeing Tolkien channeling and maybe even mediumship and maybe even a combination of those skills, bringing in that knowledge of that language that he already had the wiring for and understanding it and saying, oh, wow, this means that, this means that, this means that. And then like there was dialogue in the languages, okay, and then there would be deeper and deeper like story relaying and everything. So, and it just makes sense to me that that's what was happening when he came up with the words first and then the stories. Okay, I am open to interpretations from the audience, okay, to see how they see that. Maybe they see it in a different way. Maybe they feel that Tolkien's process of doing language was a little bit different. They might have just felt like he was just imagining the whole thing, and then it was just his process of like, oh, he did the word, and then he did, you know, that. I mean, that's legitimate as well. I mean, I'm just proposing that I think that he was channeling and doing mediumship. That's what I think. And I know that that might not be a really super popular view, but I've heard other people tell me that they think that that's what happened too.
Well, I don't have a problem with it. It's just it's non-falsifiable, so I can't say yes or no to it, you know, because
I'm not correct.
I'm not Tolkien. If I was, and I'd say, yeah, that's what I was thinking about back in the day, but
we can't ask him, or at least in real life, we can't ask him anymore.
Yeah.
And also, even if he did say that, like, how do we know? Like, I mean, in that when we talk about like science and what that can prove, and that there is a real scientific process, none of this could be proved by science. Okay. The only thing that we can maybe say is that scientists know that people practice these types of arts, but they don't have any proof other than maybe outcomes that match or something like that. And then they might think, oh, well, you know, it's not 100%. So, you know, we can't really rely on that. So it has to be 100% or it's not provable or something like that. And nothing is 100%. Okay, at least in my experience with spirituality and everything.
It's more that the scientific method only deals with quantifiable phenomena. If it's not quantifiable, then it's outside of science. That's
Right.
basically it,
Right.
So
And quantifiable meaning in this realm, meaning physical evidence.
meaning
Yeah.
you have a metric that you can measure it. And the more precise the measurement, in other words, there are different levels of measurement. All the way from nominal, where you can just name things, all the way to ratio, like in physics, where you have extreme. You have an absolute zero, and you can measure things to an extreme degree of accuracy. But uh, the mathematical operations you can perform on that data increase the higher you go as far as your ability to measure things. So that's basically what I'm saying. The scientific method
Right.
isn't designed to investigate things that are not measurable.
That is for sure.
So
that is for sure. Although, I mean, I do realize that we're really close, with some of the, like quantum mechanics and, physics and things like that versus, like, I mean, there's some stuff that gets really close, but I think that you're right. It's not quite there yet. It might be, and it might never be. But I think that there is definitely a lot. So what I can say is that I do know that, like, for instance, psychology, right, is a science. And there are some things that are like repeatable patterns, even if it's not identical to something. But it's still a study of like what people's experiences are. Like, they have to like be able to tell you what their experience is. You can't go inside of their body and go, oh yeah, that's what they're feeling. You know what I mean? Like, you can't do that. And yuck, if you could. Okay.
That is kind of funny though, because the definition of what is a science and what isn't depends upon what part of science you're in. Like a physicist would say that psychology is not a science; it's so much crap, because that's their worldview,
Right.
But
right. So it depends on how much of a hard scientist you are. So do they would they call psychology a soft science, or would they just say, oh, it's not even science at all?
Well, maybe the really fringe ones would say it's not a science at all. Most of them would call it a soft science. That's an actual term, yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think that the way that it's practiced might even be a little bit questionable in some areas too.
Well, I
know that psychology has been, as much as it's been amazing and educational in some ways, it's also been really harmful in other ways.
I think because it grew out of psychiatry, and Freud was crazy in the shithouse rat. I mean, let's just call it spade a spade.
I think you are right. even with his insights that really were a groundwork for others to come along and take those threads. So we're thankful for that. But you are right. I think that there was something very, very, really disturbing about him. But also, would he have had those experiences that he shared with us if he didn't have all of those kinds of, if you will, hangups? In other words, like, maybe it became such a focus for him because
you have a point.
So one of the things that I know about people who are in psychology is that many of them are attracted to the field because they are like at some level knowing that they're something isn't clicking right, and they're trying to like maybe fix that part, right? So they can get attracted to something like psychology, and I think that is okay, as long as you would realize that psychology by itself, like, knowing psychology by itself is not enough to, like, say, cure you of mental illness or something like that. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm taking this to an extreme, of course, but I'm making a point that just knowing it is not the same as treatment.
Well, an actual relatively modern therapy called cognitive behavioral therapy, where they believe that
Yes.
just
Yes.
logically observing your behaviors will basically cure you. And I'm like, no, that's not going to work.
Not by itself. I do think, though, that there is a use for that tool for helping people see what's actually happening, like meaning from an objective viewpoint,
Yeah, but
and
people,
also helping to reframe it. But I will say this, I think that people cannot be in a triggered trauma place doing that. Okay, in other words, like they need to be in a place where they're kind of already starting to be removed so that then they can sort it out, right? And
you,
that is only one tool to me. I think that there's a lot of tools that you can use, but that's only one tool.
but I mean, well, the whole viewing things logically that's what autistic people of my type do all the time. So that in itself doesn't cure you of any problems. I mean, yes, I can think very logically, but I could also be like Koba from Planet of the Apes with a machine gun in each hand, going down the row of ISIS dudes or whatever, just spraying them with gunfire. So there you are. I mean,
I understand, but okay, let's take that point for a moment though, Dave. That is survival behavior. So in some eyes, that might even look very logical for a person who is in a traumatic state that's been triggered.
mhm,
And therefore it would be logical for them to do that. Does that make
right.
sense?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, it does.
Okay. So, and I'm scanning through this document because some of it is, not really the point tonight, because shamanism is a very vast field, and I'm trying to like look at channeling by itself, okay, and mediumship, okay. So, but before I go, let me switch screens and find out if there's any comments in the. Okay. Oh, it doesn't look like we have any comments. Okay. Oh wait, maybe we do. Ah, okay. So Vera Faith says, seems very logical. Nimue says psychology easily pathologizes spiritual experiences. She is so right about that. Pathology meaning that, i.e., the pathway is wrong, like, you know what I'm saying, like that there is something wrong, or like there's something to fix. I also feel that so there is, okay, so this is something, yes, that is absolutely true, but Nimue, I'm curious about the difference between a spiritual experience and a true pathology. In other words, like when something has crossed the line and it's like, oh my gosh, that is a statement that would be like blank pathology. I'm curious to know, like, if you know what that borderline is, because I'm not aware of it. Because I am not a psychologist or psychiatrist. I'm an astrologer, and it views things from a much more like spiritual and archetypal energy. So, oh, here's another comment that she made. She says CBT, so cognitive behavioral therapy is used to help reframe, which is helpful to some, especially those in a trauma recovery, but not good for all, though. Oh, okay. Very, very good. And I'm glad that somebody that is familiar with psychology and or psychiatry is here on the stream tonight. This is great. Again, I'm going to come back to this one because I feel like I want to know, where is the line of spiritual experience go into pathology? And I have a feeling that it defaults to pathology rather quickly, even if a person is spiritually healthy, because there is a rigid type of system about what is real and what is not real. And they're using probably third dimensional things as real and not like extra dimensional realities. Okay. So curious about that. That's excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Let me see what else we have here. Okay, so we're at that place. Great. Okay, so I'm going to switch back to the screen again. So we were talking about the connection to Tolkien. So I think that we were in the channeling and mediumship sense. I think that I already, made the point of like the logical process, to me at least, of how a fiction author that is using imagination might write a story versus Tolkien's process of how he wrote the story, because it's literally the other way around. And most, if not all, other fiction authors had the process that if they were to use a fictional language or a fictional thing, that they would have the story first, and then those are the details that they would come up with later and fill in their story, versus Tolkien having the language all first and then having the story, which, I mean, let's face it, that story was books and books and books, like it took his whole life, right? So we're pretty sure it's a story that was told to him, and also we have a lot of evidence from Tolkien that it's like, oh, it just came in, he over and over again really says that he didn't quote write it. It was given to him.
What he would say, often he would say, I have to go find out.
I have to go find out.
Yeah,
and that's literally, actually that particular quote is literally what he said in one of his documented interviews and stuff.
It's actually in this section in the what is the connection to Tolkien. I remember writing it in there.
Is it letter 180? Is that the one?
Let's see here.
Is it letter 180?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay,
yeah.
So here, I'll go ahead and read this section out loud. More compellingly, in letter 180, Tolkien gives us a glimpse into his creative process, revealing a fascinating relationship between conscious effort and a more mysterious and also, almost subconscious act of creation. He writes, quote, "I think a lot of this kind of work goes on at other, to say lower, deeper, or higher, introduces a false gradation." Okay, so let me get back to the real part of this. I think that a lot of this kind of work goes on at other levels. Okay, so whether they're lower, whether they're deeper, whether they're higher. Okay, when one is saying, "How do you do?" or even sleeping. Okay, I have long ceased to invent, though even patronizing or sneering critics on the side praise my quote invention, unquote. So there it is, right? This passage suggests that Tolkien viewed his role not so much as a creator, but as a chronicler of events that in some sense already existed.
You skipped over the part where he says, "I wait till I seem to know what really happened, or till it writes itself." So that's
you're right.
I
skipped that line.
Yeah.
So maybe I should read that entire sentence. Okay, I've long ceased to invent, even though, even patronizing or sneering critics on the side of my invention. I wait till I seem to know what is really happened, or till it writes itself. And actually, I guess writes itself is very much of a key right there. Yeah. If it writes itself, I wonder, it's not like Tolkien could really share his real process back then. He was not only in Catholic circles, he was in academic circles, both of which would not understand like the channeling, mediumship, shamanism, like whatever you want to call it. Like they would not put any value in that at all. So he had to be really skillful in how to communicate this particular process. Okay.
Well, and as a university professor, there was a danger to his employment if
Yes.
well, the old guy's going a bit crazy,
Yes.
So if
Yes.
he came out with it, so
Yes. Yeah. So he had to be really, really skillful and really careful. But also, because of his Catholic faith, he had to also be skillful navigating that as well. So, and I think he did a really good job of being a Catholic and bringing forth this, all of these stories.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not Catholic, but I can see how it doesn't matter what your religion is if you have the linguistic skills and the ability to interact with the other world in the way that he interacted with it. Okay, which I guess we could call, in this particular case, venturing into fairy, and he even calls that the dangerous realms, perilous realms.
Perilous realm, yeah.
Yeah. So, okay, the Notions Club. So we have like Tolkien's experience. So like a lot of this is.
We might want to read this part.
Okay.
The next paragraph. He reinforces this idea in another statement. The stories were the thing. They rose in my mind as given thing, and as they came separately, so too the links grew. And absorbing the continually interrupted labor, especially since apart from the necessities of life, my mind would wing to the other pole and spend itself on the linguistics. Yet always I had the sense of recording what was already there somewhere, not of inventing. So
yeah,
that's another statement there.
That's another quote. Yep. And thank you for that. That's an excellent quote. So, and some of you are here because, like, say that you're studying the languages, and that's more of your focus, or more, or at least maybe equal focus. So, you probably want to like contemplate about how he might have also interacted with this spiritual aspect of, and that he also had a tremendous talent for linguistics and the way that works. Isn't that another science? Okay, that would not be like a hard science. That would be a soft science, right? Because it would be about how cultures are about. Yeah, again, it's a soft science, right?
Mm-hmm.
Would that, from a mathematician's point of view, right?
Are we talking about linguistics itself, or are we?
Yeah,
sort of.
Well,
in the sense that, this is my personal experience. I back in the day when I first got online, not when I first encountered Tolkien, because I was 8 years old and there was no online back in the day, but.
Right. Yeah.
But when I first got online in the basically late 80s, early 90s, and found that at that time, that was before the World Wide Web, so that there were news groups. They were text-based, basically, kind of like a bulletin board, but an earlier version. And they were global. Anybody on the planet could join them and post. Anyway, they were all talking about stuff that I didn't understand. Like, I didn't realize that as many people were interested in the linguistics as were. I was the odd man out in that respect. But nevertheless, they would talk about declensions and all this stuff that had no meaning to me whatsoever. They may as well have been speaking Chinese. But they would. So I finally got to what they were doing in mathematical terms were basically applying transforms to different root words, and I said, okay, now that I can see what you're doing, give me the transforms that you're using to derive this final form, and there was a mutual incomprehension. They didn't understand what I meant by that, and I didn't understand what they meant by saying, "Oh, it's just natural. It's a talent." And I'm like, "No." And I'm like, yeah, a talent. You mean like music? What are we talking about here? You know, and they wouldn't answer me. They would just get pissed off. So I'm like, well, fuck you, because that's the way I am.
Because that's how you are. But
yeah, yeah.
yeah, okay. You have such a great, I mean, I don't know, I see the consistency in your personality, but maybe I guess a lot of other people wouldn't, because they don't understand what your reason is.
Yeah.
You know, and I know what your reason is, and your reason is you are interested in the truth at the very bottom level, and you don't care how uncomfortable it is.
That and I could see that the Legendarium itself as a body of narrative had an internal mathematical structure which took me decades to derive. I finally did, but nevertheless, you know, it took some work. But nobody else was interested in that. They were interested in Quenya declensions and what do they call it? Blibbity blubbeams or some shit like that. I don't even know their words because I just run across them and it means nothing to me.
On the note of like how different mathematics is from linguistics, I mean, that's just right there tells me everything about why it was so confusing for you. And part of it is that you have even told me yourself, Dave, that you are so much more visually oriented and not linguistically oriented. It's not about what you're hearing or even what you're reading. It's about what you're seeing. And pictures can tell 1,000 words, like just like that, right? So it's a lot faster process for you in order to be shown something.
Right. For people who don't know me, internally I do immersive three-dimensional and multi-sensorial environments very similar to a Star Trek holodeck. That's how I think.
Okay.
So
and we also have a video here on Dave Woosley, so look it up.
So when you think that way, and then people talk about, oh, the primacy of language, and I'm like, well, not from my point. It may be primary to you, but to me, it's very much a second. All languages are very much a second language. So, you know, that's just the way it is.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And so, and by the way, okay, let's just pretend that it was you that was getting the downloads from these beings, etc. Okay, instead of Tolkien. Okay, like just for a moment. You would probably never see the light of day as far as a story. Because it would just be a movie for your own enjoy. I mean, it would literally be inside of your imaginal realm, and nobody would have ever seen it.
And I would have attempted to make pictures of it. Now I could do it a lot better because of such things as AI art. I'm not a natural artist.
True.
I mean, I can do half-assed paintings, but not like anybody with any talent. But I would have still painted, you know, like watercolors or whatever was my thing back in the day.
AI definitely has its uses to help us, you know, I guess, you know, come up with, like, here's the visual of what's in my mind, you know what I mean? Like, because you can't like take a camera and like click and what you see, like that's so I mean, this is the best that we have for that. And actually, you know, I am okay with good uses of AI. Okay.
Yeah, just like any other tool, it depends upon who's using it and what you're using it for. You know, just like fissile material, you can make a nuclear reactor with it. You can also make a nuke with it. You know,
well,
so
but
there you
go. And I guess that the reason that I even brought that up at all is because I was interested in the fact that before, or maybe even at the same time, that Tolkien was, if you will, traversing fairy, okay, or this world and encountering these beings in his visions, whether it was deliberate and intentional or whether it just happened to him. Because his mind was already wired linguistically. Now, whether that was from genetics or whether it was from, you know, past lives, whether it was from ancestry, whether it was from just a freak of nature. He had a linguistic brain that was amazing with language. Amazing. And probably the most amazing, and still to this day, the most amazing brain linguistically that we have encountered in our lifetimes, and possibly even in like before our lifetimes, maybe ever. Okay. I just think that his brain linguistically was just remarkable. And so I could see how Tolkien would have been like, because you know, like beings that are non-corporeal, or you know, like not visible, they operate at a different plane of existence, and they might have been able to see like and interact with Tolkien, because he was like, oh, you know, he has a good linguistic ability, and we wonder if we can tell him our stories and like share our stories with his dimension, right? Or his realm, i.e. this realm, okay, while he was alive. So that's a pretty interesting point. And we got Astrophel in the house. Hello. And Nimue says, one way to draw the line is whether the experiences, and we're talking about in a, like, let's say like a psychology session, okay, what would be considered a normal spiritual experience versus what would be considered pathology, okay? And so Nimue says one way to draw the line is whether the experiences enhance or diminish someone's ability to function, maintain relationships, care for themselves, and navigate reality effectively. I like that definition. That's a very good definition. And I realize that, you know, your mileage may vary, right? Because everybody has different things about what they feel enhances their experience or detracts from their experience. But there's definitely some kind of, like, if you will, basic thing. Like if you're not meeting your basic needs, that might be a problem. If you're harming others, that might be a problem. Okay. So let's see what else she says. Okay, I guess I have to unhighlight the other one first. Sorry about that. So let me show the next one. The wrong one, sorry. Spiritual practices generally involve some degree of intentionality and the ability to return to consensus reality. Pathology often involves experiences that are intrusive, uncontrollable, or that the person can't distinguish from ordinary reality. Thank you, Nimue. This is great. Okay. It does not, or I'm sorry, it does get difficult when the person having the experiences isn't able to explain it in words well. Oh, I can imagine that that would be really problematic. Like, I don't know what I'm experiencing. And then they're like going off the rails, and you're like, so how am I supposed to help, right? If they can't really put it in words well. Yeah, so that's very interesting. Okay, these are great quotes. Thank you so much for enhancing this conversation. And since you're in the room and really active, I'm going to ask you how you feel about Tolkien and his process of bringing forth the languages as well as the stories into this world, and what you think that his processes might have been, because you have a different lens than I do. And you know what, like Dave has a different lens, right? Vera Faith has a different lens. If there's anybody else on the stream, oh, Astrophel is on the stream too. Anybody else can talk about what their feelings are about, was Tolkien channeling? Was Tolkien doing mediumship? Was Tolkien involved in shamanistic technique? Was he involved in druidic technique, ovate technique, bardic technique. The heathen word, I think it's cedar. Was he involved in something like that? You know, there's so many words for these types of ways of interacting, and I'm just wondering what you guys think. And by the way, if you're watching the replay, feel free to like share what you think Tolkien was doing. Was he channeling? Was he doing mediumship? Was he, or was he just in imagination and just had a really, really great imagination to bring like history books to life? Okay, like, because that's basically what happened. The history of Middle Earth is no joke, right? Like, it's so deep and so long and so, you know, it's almost like biblical reading. Okay, and we do talk about the Bible being kind of a historical document in its own way. So I'll go ahead and let people bring that into the chat. I'm going to switch back over to the document. And isn't it interesting that, oh, I can do the slides right onto the, okay. I did not know this. So this is new StreamYard technique, you guys. Apparently I'm able to do this from the screen. And we are in approximately this area. So I'm going to switch back to the document itself because I can't read this on this screen, but I can on a different screen. So I'm going to go.
What are you talking about slides? What you talking about, Willis?
I understand. So let me explain. So the technology of how I normally used to do this versus how it happens now is that usually when I was scrolling on the document itself, so in other words, if I switch my screen and I'm reading it to look at, it changes on the screen. But in this case, I'm supposed to use the built-in slide or PDF page, and I can do it from there, but it's just so small I can't
interesting.
read it. Yeah, so this is new. Thank you, StreamYard, but also not useful in this case. But that, I mean, I'm not going to be complaining. Okay, that's fine. I switched it over. So we have, and what I did was I also scrolled down to Tolkien's experiences with recurring dreams. This is another thing that tells me that he had a tremendous ability to interact with the spiritual or otherwise non-physical world.
Yeah, my point of view on the whole thing, I tend more towards a neurological and neurotheological point of view, but he had a unique mind, and he had what I would call a shamanic transceiver in his head to receive and possibly transmit information bidirectionally. So that's what I think was going on. Of course, you can't prove that one way or the other.
Nobody can prove it.
Like John Cavill said on Battlestar Galactica, no way to prove it one way or the other, of course. But no,
but
that's
it doesn't matter. Actually, what you know, like what matters is that he did it.
Right.
No matter how he did it. I'll go on to talk about his dream life. So I'll just read that sentence. Tolkien's experiences with recurring dreams further bolster the idea that his creative process was intertwined with deeper and perhaps unconscious forces. We don't know if he was conscious or not conscious doing this. Like, we just don't know because we weren't there. He frequently had what he referred to as his, quote, Atlantis complex, unquote, a vivid recurring dream of a great wave overwhelming and flooding the land. Okay, so and that's actually well documented. I mean, just look around online, but Dave does provide a good link in the article. I would think that this particular vision, because of the pain involved, was probably not intentional. Like, in other words, like having a recurring dream of like overwashed with, because in dream translation, water is actually emotion. And so if you're drowning like and overwashed with tidal waves and other things, it means that you're going through a lot of emotional turmoil from dream analysis. Okay. And so I would think that he was going through an experiential time of emotions during these times. And also, he was involved in his process of writing stories, etc. And so like they were just trying to, I'm thinking that the beings were like, hey, this was a really serious point in our history. Like, this is what happened, you know? And then he was like just in the feeling of that, because I'm guessing that Tolkien had his own sense of, if you will, empathy and other things as well. So again, you get a lot more, you know, information faster through your senses than you do through language and telling stories sometimes too.
I just checked that link there was dead, but I found an update. I found an archive of it on now the Wayback Machine, so I can put it in the chat if people want to look at it.
If you put it in the actual chat, that'd be great, and then I'll highlight it, and then
Okay.
we'll change the link, I guess,
Well,
in the or I'll put it in the video description.
Okay. Do you want me to put it in the YouTube chat,
in,
CB? Well, you see, I can't. I'm on two separate.
You can't. Oh, then you have to do it in the private chat. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah, I'm on two separate devices. You see.
Gotcha. No worries. And kind of I am too. I'm using this as like other things. So very good. Yeah, our technology has been a little challenging this evening. Okay. Let me go ahead and grab that, you guys. Private chat. I
saw that it had errored out. Of course, it was live when I wrote the article, but that was 2024. So it is gone.
Okay. Did you put it in the private chat here in StreamYard, or did you put it in Facebook?
Again, I can't put it in the chat on StreamYard because that's on a separate device. So I put it in.
Okay.
I put it on.
I misunderstood what you were talking about.
Yeah.
Okay.
I put it in Facebook Messenger.
This is the shamanic worldview. Okay, I don't see the message here.
It's in our group chat on Facebook Messenger.
Okay, hang on. It might be. Did you put it in the DeKindre and Dave one or the Dave one?
Yeah.
Okay, because I'm only seeing the shamanic worldview. Let me look on my, because this is again how slow my computer is. So and I don't know why.
It's there, but
I trust you. Web.archive.org. Yeah, it's right here, but it's not showing up on my computer, so I can't. Okay, guys, he sent the link. I'm gonna have to just do this later. Sorry. We'll update the link later because there's no way I can do this right now.
I can email it to you if you want. If that's easier. All right, let me.
Oh, it showed up finally. Hang on.
Okay.
And now that I close the screen, it's like, okay, there. Okay.
Wow, your computer really is slow.
Oh, it's way slow right now. It's really slow.
I would call that unusable. I would.
It's pretty annoying. I'll say that. Yeah. Not gonna lie. And I have an idea. Okay, it's not working. Okay, my computer is like too many things. I can't do this.
Okay, well, I just mentioned it in case if people wanted to see the reference, but if it doesn't come through, it doesn't come through. Whatever.
Oh, here it is. Update. Finally.
Okay.
Finally, but now I can't highlight it. Let me see if I can. Okay, now I can highlight it. Okay, I'm waiting for it to have the drop-down menu for me to copy and paste.
Yeah, your computer is like molasses. I
no,
just have to
it's
say,
so slow. I mean, it's like 1985 slow. Like, it's really bad.
yeah, wow. I mean,
Okay.
holy shit house mouse, grandmother.
We'll talk later, Dave. I promise. Yeah, I'm switching back from the private chat up to comments, and it's taking a long time. Oh,
Oh,
interesting.
yeah.
Astrophel says my computer is being strange too, or internet for him or her. Internet. Okay. Oh, Nimue says she's back and forth working on dinner and engaging in the conversation. So that's great. And by the way, dinner is good, so you do that. And and she says, "Ha ha, I'm a 1985 birth year slow." It says slow. That's funny. Okay, him, you got the right the first time. Okay, that's right. And hang on a second. Okay, so Anna Roos, which is Verifaith, says, I am not an expert on Tolkien, but all this vast material from Tolkien, it doesn't make sense that it just came only from his mind. That's what, and I mean, I'm saying that in a way that like makes sense, because it's not making sense to me here, but you know what I mean, right? So I'll see if I can highlight it for the screen, and then that way it's
certainly
documented in real time.
Certainly his mental processes were different than, for example, Stephen King. You know, there's a very prolific author,
that
but he
is
thinks
for
very,
sure.
very different. You know,
Stephen King does not invoke, to me, does not invoke the spiritual qualities that Tolkien does. I'm not saying that he is not a good writer, but I believe that his inspiration, while it might be, I guess, considered like maybe paranormal, I don't think that it has necessarily a spiritual connotation to it. I think that there's a lot of drama and other things going on with Stephen King. And also, like, the way that his style is, I mean, it's a very, like, it's definitely I guess an acquired taste that I never got. So that's me.
Yeah, me either. I mean, maybe when I was like 12, but I kind of outgrew him.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm documenting everybody's thing. Okay, so now, okay, I'm trying to get your link over here. Okay, and then once I get it posted, and I'm hoping that it'll link for you guys so you guys can go see it if you want to. I'm also going to highlight it here so I don't forget. And hopefully I can remember to put it in comments, or also, Dave, if we can update the actual document, and then we can get a new one from the PDF host and all of that, of which reminds me, we already did the PDF host document. What I was wondering is if I should do the PDF host document, and I might be able to change the size of this document. But anyway, it might not matter because we're, pretty much halfway through, and maybe even further than that. So,
I think though now that you mention it, I think I will. It'll be a little bit of a hassle, but I probably will convert this to HackMD because it's one of my more recent documents and fairly important. So I think I will convert it.
Yeah, it'll just be
fiddly.
Take your time. Yeah. We want you to, like, if you're burning on another project right now, like, we want that to happen. So just make sure that, I guess, that you put this somewhere on your to-do list, but like it could be lower priority is where I'm going with that.
Right.
Okay, so I've caught up with all the comments. So now I want to go back to the PDF. And so we talked about the dreams, and then obviously dreams is one of the ways of working with the spiritual world, and particularly for shamans. Okay, particularly for them. I mean, they always talk about dream time and dream walking and, all of that type of stuff. So definitely that plays a role. And I think that, you know, while it's not direct channeling or mediumship, it definitely, I think, is something that could be a case for, did Tolkien channel or do mediumship with this material, both the languages as well as the stories. So awesome. We will go down here now towards, oh, his statement on fairy stories. I thought that could be good. If we could go backward in time, the fairy story might be found to change in details or to give away to other tales, but there would always be a, quote, fairy tale, unquote, as long as there was any Thor. When the fairy tale ceased, there would be just thunder with no human ear had yet heard. So, and the Thor is like, you know, it's in reference. So because we're taking it out of, you know, the context of him discussing Norse folklore there. So
yeah, it's from On Fairy Stories.
Yeah. Okay. So the rightness of fit is a quality that is commonly recognized in Tolkien's work. And even like for the Peter Jackson version of Fellowship of the Ring, it says history became legend, legend became myth, and for 2,500 years, the ring passed out of all knowledge. So, yeah, so it's just more like evidence towards this spiritual aspect, that Tolkien was not just involved with telling us a story. Tolkien was literally bringing forth, birthing into our world, bringing forth a mythology, and even with a matching language. I mean, come on. Actually, languages, should I even say? I mean, like, lots of languages, but, you know, the main ones being Elvish of various types. So, yeah, like, I just think that these are just, again, more evidence, all of the things. Tolkien's logical post-processing of the received material. We were talking about how he was doing Sir Gawain with the Green Knight and Beowulf. And so he, again, immersed himself in these materials. These could have even given him, you know, like extra insight, or like, you know, could have like opened up other talents for him, things like that, of these types of things. Okay. So, oh, this is an interesting thing. When he was revisited by his own first draft, he was trying to understand what, quote, the author, i.e. himself, meaning Tolkien, actually, quote, meant, unquote. Now that's interesting. That's interesting. Who's the author? Oh, wait, maybe it was that non-corporeal being talking to Tolkien, and Tolkien's like the you know, secretary transcribing it, right?
Well, yeah.
So who's
What
the
that?
author?
What
You
that?
know, that's so interesting. And then he is like,
What?
oh, wait a minute, I'm the author, right?
What that process is called in general is called metacognition. You examine your own thought processes, and then, you know, can basically look at your thinking outside of yourself. So that's essentially what he was doing. It was
Yeah,
more
but
focused on the
from
story.
another point of view, he was a secretary taking notes from another being that isn't physical, and probably wrote, you know, because like shorthand, like it's going fast, so you're like, right?
Well, that's why I said a bit earlier up here. He hastily wrote them down, often with increasing speed, as if trying to capture the details of a fading dream.
Yes, and that is how it works. And particularly, like, and especially with Dreamtime work and coming back into that physical world, it does make it to be where the ethereal is, it slips away. It's really fast that way. Anybody that does this for, I don't know, like a practice, okay, will tell you that happens. Like, you'll slip out on all the details that you're seeing so vividly in that world. And the more that you get practice of like keeping that, I guess, that window open, the better, but it still slips away fast. Yeah. So that was like, I mean, most of the things here we already talked about. Let's see here. We could go on and, you know, talk about all of the other things in this document, Dave, but I think that we have talked about quite a bit. Meaning that it still emphasizes the same points that we made the first time, which was that, you know, here's another piece of evidence. Here's another piece of evidence.
Well, that's what I said. You know, when we were talking about this earlier, I said, you know, I have this, but this is already written. I don't understand channeling, so I can't write about it. You know,
well, but what you don't know is that you do know. Okay, is that channeling and mediumship is only one aspect in the way that I understand the definition, okay, of these three words. Channeling and mediumship are one aspect of shamanism. Okay, shamanism is like this big giant thing. Okay.
Well, yeah, there's the cultural aspects to it too. Yeah. You know, so.
You know, was Tolkien psychic? Probably. Okay. Was Tolkien gifted with being able to traverse worlds? I think so. Was Tolkien, you know, like he definitely like left evidence trails of his process that makes us like put a couple of things together and go, he was probably a person that, you know, shamanistically journeyed fairy, encountered beings and channeled or mediumshipped with them in order to bring some of these things into existence. Okay. We could go on and on about like the process, you know, him like, you know, with the Legendarium, Ragnarok, with Dagorith and, you know, Mythopoeia. There's so many things here. We'll go ahead and let you read the document because we already did the entire document in the Tolkien and Shamanism video. We just wanted to make a channeling video, and many of the same points that were used in this document were the ones that, like, you know, we thought that we would talk about with the channeling and the mediumship particularly. So I think that we've addressed, because shamanism is a much larger topic. And so I'm going to go ahead and get out of this document because it's already there for you guys. You already have, you know, great knowledge and have seen this before. So I'm going to go ahead and remove that. Dave, did we want to have any of your HackMD supplemental articles brought up? And let me tell you the titles of them. One is called Shamanic Visions, Insights, and the Illusion of Time. Do we need to bring that one up today for the channeling?
You don't have to. You don't have to. That's more
okay.
my
Again,
personal.
all of these are linked in the description. Yeah. Okay, so I'm just asking Dave if he wants to include it in the video. What about science and its limits? Probably not.
Not really, not unless you're interested in the history of science and what it actually is and is not, you know. So
I think it's off topic, but we included it for people who want to dig deeper into that. So,
okay.
How about the resurgence of the occult and metaphysics of quality?
That's
a scientific paper of a shaman's investigation. Again, it's more shamanic in nature because that's your emphasis.
Yeah, well, it was also what I wrote, basically, an investigation of the online spiritual communities, basically, and trying to understand them from my point of view. So that's more of a Dave Woosley, you know,
okay,
personal writing.
And for the linguistic one, and I don't think it's on topics, but I thought I would ask you, it would be the misguided linguistic elitism and how it alienates others. But I don't think that that's part of like the topic tonight.
Not the topic tonight. It's on topic if you have my sort of personality, then it's on topic.
We'll do a video. We'll do extra videos on you if we need to. Yeah, that's fine.
If you don't, then it might offend people, but oh well, life is pain, as I say.
Yeah. And then the remaining one would be the emergent phenomena examples, but I think that that's a supplement to one of your other ones. So
yeah,
that's
actually,
okay.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah.
All right, so we did all of the documents, and again, all of these links are below, and I want to get to you guys' comments because this is cool. So let me scroll up because it looks like we've had a couple. Okay, Astrofell says, this dream of a wave going over the land could be referring to Doggerland we had spoken about a long time ago, if I can recall. That might be part of what's going on. Now, in the stories, I understand that it was Numenor that was sinking, where and the other name for Numenor is Atalante, Atlantis. So it might be an Atlantis moment, but again, it could all be related with Doggerland and that whole thing. And we did a Doggerland video. You probably already saw it. Well, yeah, Doggerland, we did a video on that. I think that you would be very interested in that if you didn't already see it.
Back.
Yeah, it was a couple months back. So look on our channel. We already did one. It's really cool. Okay, Nimue. Yay! I always love her comments. He was a genius in his own right, a rare mind. How his writings came, only he knows. That's right. A unique neurological constellation that gave us such rich material. The way his mind fired continues to inspire. Oh, that is so well put. That's amazing. By the way, and Nimue, let me know if I can share with our audience your recent, meaning yours and Draco's recent invention of Arda Rediscovered, and let us know if we can help you get the word out about that. And you could either type the link in the chat, or I can type it in because it'll link it and we can highlight it for you. I think it's a Substack, right? So we would like to get people turned on to your writing, because your writing is really prolific here, and I want to allow people to share that with you. And I know that you don't have a video channel, so it might be just a cool thing to bring people's attention to. So Astrofell says, I do dream work. You forgot 90% of the dream in the first 15 minutes after waking up. So it's why dream journals are so important. Yes, dream journals. And I would even say that it's seconds before, and I can tell you, okay, so I'm kind of a person that doesn't even remember my dreams unless it's super important, okay? And even when the moment that I wake up, most of the details are gone. I literally only have wispy, pieces. And I've been doing spiritual work for a number of years, but the dream area is a real struggle for me. That is a real struggle. And I think the reason that it's such a struggle for myself is because I have a really, a thick wall, okay, in between my time here on this planet, meaning in this third dimension, or, time space continuum, okay, and the other worlds. I have a very, I'm either here or I'm there, and I'm not in between. So that might be just my alignment with how it works. And so I feel that that's why I lose details really quickly, and in fact, to the degree that I usually don't remember my dreams at all. Okay, I will remember, however, really important messages. I will definitely remember those. But as soon as I get the message, it's like, okay, the dream is gone. You're not going to get nothing else. Okay, because the more you write it down, your dreams, the more vivid they'll be. I know, you would think. I used to do a dream journal back in the 90s, early 2000s. It never got better. I'm just telling you. However, that's just my wiring, maybe. And maybe that was some kind of choice that I made, when I came in, or maybe, I don't know. There might be some things that are needing protection in my energy, and for me to like not unpack those, and whether it's for myself or whether it's for others, like not knowing, I'm not really sure why.
And I just
Go
want to
ahead.
mention, since we're on this topic, I use Salvia divinorum for my shamanic practices, and that's classified as a Onierigen, which literally means dream producer. What it does is it kicks you into REM sleep while you're still awake, so you have a waking dream. And that's
Can
how
you
it that's
tell
how
us
it
that what that is again, one more time?
Oh, the word Onierogen, Oneirrogen. R
Oneirrogen.
Yeah, you can look it up on Wikipedia, and there's an
Let
article
me
about it.
let me is this the correct spelling?
Let's see here. I have to get close to the screen to see. Yep, that's it.
Okay, wow, that's a new one for me. I guess we
And
need to look that one up.
that's how it functions. It switches on REM sleep. As the substance takes effect, it switches it on, and you have the same sort of dream that you would have in REM, when you're sleeping, but more intense because it has other effects also. But that's how it works. That's its MO, you might say.
So I think that we were changing the subject, but Nimue writes, "Life is pain, Your Highness. Anyone who says differently is trying to sell you something." The Princess Bride. We love that movie. So cool. Okay, and then she says, "Wow, thanks," meaning for us to share her Arda rediscovered. So she says that she's good with it, but she wants to check, which that's totally okay. So just get back with us. You could either share it here, or we can just do it on our next live stream, like when you guys come, and we can share it with our audience. So I totally get like that you want to run it by, and because we like to, if you will, cross promote, like other groups, because people might see some value in what you have to offer that we don't have, and vice versa, so we're all about community here. And so I've already highlighted that word. Okay, and so Nimue says substances of Lorien. Interesting. Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, so we have been streaming now for, let's see how long, about an hour and a half. So yeah, we should probably start wrapping it up soon. I think that we made the point like pretty well. And Dave, did you have any points that you wanted to like close with, or?
No, I think we basically covered most of them.
Okay.
I mean, I have after the broadcast, I have the articles that I wrote to discuss with you. But that
Oh, well, but yeah, we can
yeah,
do that
yeah,
after the
right.
broadcast. That's fine. Yeah, so okay, Astrophil. So, and we already did the linking, and I shared the links, and that was for the PDF host document, which is the document that we shared online tonight, so that people can read it thoroughly, and then the link replacement, which is a web archive that we also shared on here. So, okay, I'm making sure that I just got everything. And also, we already shared all of the videos. We also shared, so this is something that you guys might want to watch if you haven't watched it already, which most of you have. But the Tolkien video that was a BBC interview. It's so good. It's one of the best interviews that Tolkien ever did. And we linked it down in the description. So if you guys have never watched that, it's really worth your time, and you can really allow from that new viewpoint of like, hey, was Tolkien channeling this? If you listen to that video, you might have some insight that really works for you. So, you know what? Verafaith says it seems too short. Oh, that's so cute. Okay, well, anyway, no problem, you guys. We do miss seeing you, and happy 2026 in the Gregorian calendar. As all of you know, we're going to be having our Elven New Year, and all of that coming up toward the end of March. Okay, because that's the elves in their New Year, because they figured it out, right? Like they actually start the new year around the spring equinox, right? So, aw. Yay. Look at Nimue says, good to see you guys. Thank you for the conversation and take care. So we have a few people who are going to watch the replay as well. So I wanted to say good night to all of you. Yay. And oh, I wanted to tell people that were newcomers. Dekendre couldn't make it tonight. So he will be back later. I just wanted to let you guys know that he was just not able to make it tonight. Okay, so let's see here. Appreciate you guys. Oh, that's really nice. We appreciate you too, Vera Faith. And enjoy your cup that you shared with us the other day that I shared on social media because it was funny. Very good. Awesome. Well, we wish you all a good night and a wonderful week, a wonderful weekend, and we'll be back soon because we have some other material. Dave, did you want to share some of our upcoming subjects?
Let's see here. Well,
if you don't, we can keep everything a surprise.
No, I'd rather discuss it with you first. So. You know.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and actually, so I will just mention that one of them that's going to come up this year, okay, is going to be symbols that people might use for Tolkien and or Elven energy. Uh-oh. Can you hear me, Dave?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, I don't know why my camera just went out, but just in case, yeah, so
I can see you now. I can still see you.
Okay, so something is glitching with my computer because it switched screens. It totally, I'm just not even sure what's going on here. So I'm trying to end the stream and it just freaked out. So, good night, Laita. I am glad you shared it. Okay, I'm going to click out before anything else happens. Okay, say good night. Okay. Stay tuned. We're going to have more topics and we're going to have more curriculum development as soon as Dekendre lands in his new realm, hopefully Scotland, hopefully soon. Okay. We'll keep you posted on that and have a good night and a great weekend. We'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.